Hello, and welcome to Unleash Your Courage. This is your host, Angela Schroeder, and we're so excited to have one of my pastors, Matt, with me here today on this episode. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Man, I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, well, before we dive in, why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about you?
I just turned 45 just a few days ago. So hopefully I'm middle aged. That's what I keep telling people. Like, I hope this is the middle for me. Uh,
Yeah.
my wife and I, we've been married it'll be 24 years on July 10th. So we're coming up on that here soon. And we've got four kids, ages 21, 19, 15, and 11, three boys and a girl. Uh, I've been in some sort of paid ministry position, been paid by the church for 26 years, 25, 26
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah. A lot of those have been part-time and then I've been full-time in ministry for over 11 years. During the part-time years, I owned multiple businesses. I was in the kind of creative spaces. So I did photography, uh, corporate and commercial video production. We owned a few post-production companies that did different things for other uh, photographers and videographers as well. And so I was in the business space for a while. I love it. I'm very much an entrepreneur at heart. So I think I did one recently. I think I just did my 8th LLC for a business idea I had. So I've done it quite a bit over the years. There goes one of
Oh,
my kids
I
walking
love
by me in the background. Yeah, so I mean that's about it. I mean I'm really into from hobby wise. Like I work out a lot. I play golf with my wife. I watch my kids play baseball. So that's about my life right now. It doesn't get more exciting than that. So
I love that when you said eighth LLC, it reminds me of my brother joking. My brother's my
yeah,
accountant, and I think each time, I mean, many of them have been like sustained businesses, but some are like different ideas or partnerships
yeah,
or things like that. And
oh
he's
yeah,
like, yeah, here we go again.
exactly, yeah,
How many numbers is this? But I love it. It means the inspiration and idea. So, as I
yeah,
said, Matt is one of my pastors at my home church in Omaha when I'm not traveling and on the road in there at
yeah,
Relevant. And before we dive into some more of the stuff that you said in your story, we're going to dive right into what I kept promoted and talking about is Matt has given so many incredible and inspiring messages, but one that really changed my life and my perspective on a lot of things was a message he gave on truth and grace. And the message might not have been on that. I thought before I did this episode, I'm like, maybe I should go back and rewatch. There was probably some other title, and I just took this tiny little nugget out of
yeah.
it. He actually brought his own kitchen table up onto the stage. And we were saying before the episode, I think your kids may have been, how old is your oldest? Similar to
He's
mine?
21 now.
Okay.
So if I remember right, that sermon, he probably would have been in the 19, 18, 19, about to graduate from high school or just graduated right in there.
Yeah, I think about to graduate from high school. So yeah, mine are
Yeah.
Hildy and Thad are 20 and 23. So it was relevant about the same time
Yeah.
frame. So um, I could go on and on about the message, but I'll send the takeaway. Do you just want to talk a little bit about that and that season of your life and maybe what
Yeah.
inspired that?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of give a little bit of background, as a church, Angela would know this. One of the things we say a lot is we want to be known more by what we're for than what we're against. And that may seem like a weird way to start a truth and grace kind of conversation, but for me, that was really kind of the genesis, kind of the foundation for where that idea came from. I mean, for a lot of people, if you grew up with any kind of faith background at all, if you grew up in the church, or even if you knew somebody who grew up in the church, and there was a lot of like, it was very rules based a lot growing up for people. It was very this is just how we do things and you better fall in line, or whatever. And it wasn't all that much different for me. My parents were great, but there was still a lot of that just kind of known within our culture of faith, of like, you do this, you don't do that, you don't date girls that do that, you don't like, you just, this is the way life was for us. And so a lot of that really kind of infiltrated its way into the way that I parented it, just by nature. And so the more I spent time being on staff at Relevant, really trying to shift some
Yeah.
thinking, the the thought process behind the sermon came when my son, and I, my oldest, we clash personality wise, which really, if anybody has kids, they know, if they have multiple kids, they would know, like, there's going to be some of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've got one son who likes all the same things that I like, and so we don't clash as much personality wise. And then Caleb, my oldest, he likes the exact opposites. He likes anime, and he likes video games, and he likes going to Comic-Con and all, I mean, all these different things. And I'm a athlete, hang out with the jock guys. I play sport. Like, that's just how I grew up, and that's how he grew up and became more in line with those things. And so without 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 extreme effort, we wouldn't connect really well. And so one of the things that took place within this message was just this idea of like, hey, if I don't work really hard at creating a seat at the table, that's kind of the illustration I used. Like, man, if I don't create a seat at the table for him to where he knows he's always welcome to come sit at my table, man, there's a high likelihood that when he steps out of this house, when he graduates high school and steps out, that relationship is going to be severed. And so there was a lot of truth and grace in terms of like, hey, he wasn't currently kind of walking down the same faith path that I was. Like, he wasn't following hard after Jesus like I was hoping he would. And so there was another clash there. This one just happened to be more spiritually. And so if I let that clash, create this disconnect between the two of us, then well, number one, I would lose influence over him. So if we don't maintain relationship, I have no opportunity for influence. And so for me, it was like, I could fight to be right, or I could fight for the relationship, and I chose to fight for the relationship. And so that's where the sermon kind of came together of like, man, I could beat truth over his head all day long, just truth. But if I did that, then I would, like I said earlier, I would sever that relationship. Or I could lean heavier on the grace side, believing that, man, I'm going to show grace and love. I'm going to make sure he has a seat at my table for the rest of his life. And then hopefully when the opportunity comes, I can speak truth into his life. So that's kind of the basis for that message, and really the way it played out in my own personal life. A lot of times, the best messages for any preacher on the face of the earth is when you can, pull stories from your own life and things that really play out in reality for you, not just theoretical ideas. And that was definitely one of them for me.
Yeah, to another thing of relevant, like make faith practical. And
yeah,
that was exactly that. So, see, it gives me tears. And during the actual sermon, I was bawling. I was like a mess. I couldn't believe, because you had that moment and were emotional of like, if I don't create this seat at the table, he might not come back. And I was in that same season of like so hard on my kids. There were just rules. Like, there were hard and fast rules, whether they be religious rules, like when we grew up, or just my expectations as a high performer.
Absolutely.
And there were absolute rules. There were absolute rules and morals that I wanted us to live by, rules of the law, things that we expected for our kids. Like you said, these are the things that we do. We believe in Jesus and we're athletes. There's not another path. And that's kind of the way I was parenting. Like, you have to live in these rules. And it was the sudden, I think, Dad might have been even in his first year of college then. And I was like, wow, if something doesn't completely change, he has a choice to never come back to this table again. And so it was that like gut punch reality of, like you said, do I need to be right? Being right, or do I want to fight for the relationship? And it just, as you described it this time, I have always just related it to the parenting story and how I'm still parenting them through adulthood, all the time. I mean, I feel almost every big decision with them, encounter them, like I think back of like, what would Matt do? Like, am I still giving them a seat at this, welcoming
Yeah.
them to this table? Am I offering more grace and love than judgment? But I didn't see it until you said right now it from which cannot, not only relate for all the viewers, not only in like family situations and parenting situations, but you said, if you didn't give that grace, that you're going to lose your influence
Yeah.
over him and the opportunity to ever give the truth at future times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's not only a parenting perspective, but as business owners, in our relationships, our business
Hmm.
relationships with other people, and especially with those that we are called to lead as leaders, that if we are leading with so much truth, these are the expectations, these are the rules, and not with grace and love, then we lose the opportunity to be the leader to them.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we say this a lot at Relevant. You hear, Angela, you'd hear us say this a lot. Like, this is another situation where, like, you don't have to be a follower of Jesus for this to be impactful for you. Like, this whole idea of, like, I have paid staff that work for me. I oversee some paid staff even now. And so, like, in the same way, when it comes to leadership, it's like, man, if I'm pushing and pushing and pushing rules and regulations and, these, the everything that you have to get done, and I don't take into account that, one of my employees has sick kids and they have things going on in life, and I don't care for them and love them in that way. And when it comes time for me to have influence them in a leadership perspective, I lose that opportunity as well, because they don't think of me as somebody who's loving and caring and kind. They think of me as a jerk boss. Well, like, it works out on both sides, whether it be faith-based or leadership-based.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Who knows what my camera is doing there? But yeah, and I didn't think of it from that perspective before. I was so in the moment, and it's how you
Yeah.
hear something in different times. But
Hmm.
I need it all the time in my leadership, because I'm like
Yeah.
this driven. Like, these are the rules. We follow
Yeah.
the rules, and these are the expectations. But you lose the influence. So that's going to be a big goodness. uh, um, big nugget that I take away is,
Yeah.
you can choose to be right, or you can choose the relationship, and losing the influence. So,
Hmm.
uh, so if you are listening, I didn't say that at the beginning. Thank you if you are listening live on Turfs Up Radio, if you're listening by recording, or if you are joining us live in the Facebook group. If you register through StreamYard, we can see your name in the comments, and leave us a comment. Tell us you're here. Say hello. And you can ask us. I always say you can ask us any questions, and I don't really mean it, because I can choose to put the question up or not. Oh, let's dive into some courage. Whether you want to go down that parenting route or leadership or anything in your life, tell us about a time that you had to face the fear and make a courageous decision.
Yeah, you mentioned that before we started, so I've been thinking about it. Even wrote down a little note. I wish there was something a little more recent, but the thing that came to my mind right away, especially since the sermon was parenting based as well, the thing that kind of came to my mind was my wife and I. Our youngest daughter, or our youngest child, is our daughter. She's 11. She is adopted from Ethiopia, and so I just think back when it comes to, like, hierarchy or level of things that have taken courage over the course of, my 45 years. That one's still so far up there, because if you know anything about adoption, it's not the easiest process, especially international adoption. And it was about a 3+ year process, and tens and tens of thousands of dollars that we didn't really have. We had to sell stuff. We had to save extra money. We had to ask for help. We had to get a lot of help, and eventually had to, travel over to Ethiopia multiple times to before we could actually bring her home as our daughter. And so, like, now she's 11. She is fully a part of our family. I can't imagine life without her, of course. But when it comes to the courage aspect, and then kind of tying it to parenting, because that's what we were on, that's the thought that came to my mind, was just really believing that, for us, we believe that God called us to do that. We believe that He led us to do that. And so the courage it takes to actually take that step was the first thing that came to my mind over the course of my life. So
Yeah, and that was a big one. Like you said, it was,
yeah,
something on your heart and you believed that that's what you were called to do. But it wasn't easy. It took getting
yeah,
uncomfortable in multiple scenarios of what other, like you said, financially, the travel,
hmm,
the effect on all kinds of things in your life. It wasn't the easy way out or the
no, no, yeah,
the comfortable, and it involved multiple uncomfortable decisions
yeah.
that
I
that
also wrote down. I mean, I don't know if I have time for two,
yeah,
but I was thinking
for
about.
all about courage.
Yeah, I always lean towards the entrepreneurial, the leadership side of things too. In 2009, I I had been working a full time job that I didn't love. It was paying the bills. But the reason I'm so grateful for this job that I didn't like was it was the thing that spurred me on to kind of start my own first business. And so that was in 2009. I started my own photography business, and I was able to, um, within 3 months of deciding to do it, to actually buying the gear and starting. It was about 3 or 4 months after that that I was able to quit my job and go full time in my own business, which was anybody who's done that, right? Like that is a scary, scary move because we're taught our culture teaches like, hey, you need the stability, you need the 401k, you need the health insurance. Like this is all pre like health insurance marketplace days and all that. And so it was just like, how do I even provide health insurance for my family? So it was like learning how to do all of those things as along with, can I actually provide and put food on the table? That was one of the scariest things I ever did, and it was one of the best things I ever did. I would never trade that time for anything because again, for me, courage as a follower of Jesus, courage and reliance on God for provision, they go hand in hand for me. And so when it takes courage to step out and something, that courage for me requires faith that God's going to move. And so being able to see him do that was really, really cool, and got to experience being a business owner for about 9 years. Yeah, it was really some of the best times of my life. So,
Awesome. I love how you described like what motivated you to do that, that you were in a place of unsettled, unhappy,
mm,
and so
yeah,
like didn't like what you were doing, and knew that you had the opportunity to control that and do something that, again, you felt called to do, a passion of yours, something that you were good at, and really take control of your life, trust that there
yeah,
would be
yeah,
a vision that would work out, but to take control of your own destiny. And
yeah,
similar to the adoption story, like not know the way, like you got to make a way,
yeah,
find a way, all that
yeah,
logistics to work out, but to get to um, follow your passion and make it work.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, but there are those unknowns, and lots of listeners and all of us that have started businesses. It is like, okay, I'm about to jump off a cliff from the safety and security, like you said,
Yeah,
that so people think they have to have, or that we have to have. There's the paycheck coming in. There's all those other things
yeah,
of the benefits and stuff. Instead of, you have a family, and it's not just you. You're not just
yeah,
like, well, I got to make this work to feed myself. I've got to make this work. The pressure of, I've got to make this work to provide for my family as well.
mm, yeah,
So you did that, the photography business, full time for 9 years.
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was
Uh,
awesome.
I always
Now,
forget.
to be clear, every January, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 Januaries that we didn't do this, but I had a business partner, and every January, I like clockwork, we would sit on the couches in our studio and look at each other and go, I think we need to find a job because every we were very cyclical in our business, and so
Mhm.
it was like, I don't think we can pay ourselves. We should probably find a job. And then, a job would come through, and, an invoice would get paid and everything would work out. So like, yeah, 9 years full time. That doesn't mean there weren't like moments of really scary and we don't know if we're going to get paid. But we were blessed. We never missed a paycheck that I remember, at least. And so, yeah, it was good. It was a good 9 years.
I love that because we do all have those cycles too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
is it time to get out of the boat? Is it time to jump ship?
Yeah.
Or not yet? And so you still do photography. I see
Yeah.
online, right? You still do it as a side hobby
Side
plus
thing. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I tell people all the time I didn't get into ministry because of the money. So, like, I mean, God provides. Like, our church is great; they take care of me, but that
Yes.
doesn't mean there aren't times that I could use some extra cash. And thankfully, it's a skill that allows me, it kind of affords me the opportunity to make a little bit extra here and there. I actually just finished a pretty big video project for Omaha Sports Commission. I work for them on the side once a year, and it's the type of thing where, like, you put in, a concentrated period of work, and I can make a little bit extra money. And really, it pretty much just all goes to pay for baseball for my kids, but at least at least I can afford to do it. So, yeah.
Exactly. So you do video as well.
I do. Yeah. That was actually video production is what got me into photography. I went to school at Metro for the video production program.
Okay.
And I worked full time for a few organizations doing video production. And then that was when I was like, it wasn't that I hated my job as much as I wanted to see if I could do something on my own. That was kind of where I was at that time, was like, what avenue would afford me the opportunity to do this full time. And at the time, 2009, photography was kind of, now everybody and their mother has a camera and they go out and they take pictures. And so at the time in 2009, it wasn't quite like that yet. So I was able to kind of work my way into the industry early enough to be able to make a living. So that was kind of the transition, was video to photography. But now, I'll do family portraits usually in the fall. That's kind of a nice chunk of time that I can make some extra cash for Christmas money. And then I have a few clients that I do some video production, some editing, different things for. So,
I'm checking this out for my own thing. I didn't know you did video, and I was like,
yeah.
stay tuned. I might want some video.
Yeah.
And a picture I'll never forget. I was like, that sounds like a good idea when you took pictures of Sarah's family, like travel pictures. I
Oh,
was like,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let's go on vacation and have him take some pictures in a destination.
Yeah. Yeah. That was awesome. So in photography as a business, I actually did quite a bit of traveling back then. Um, for different weddings, shot a few weddings in Jamaica. And that was like the coolest part of the job, was not only did I get paid my full rate for shooting a wedding, but they also paid for me to fly somewhere to do it. Like, man, what else can you ask for?
Exactly. Vacation
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
oh goodness. Well, we're gonna dive more into some stories, but first, like I always forget, it's time to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The commercials go so much better now and all the things seamless. So I have a great team, and I used to try and do all the technology for being on the radio and being live and Facebook and everything all on my own. And luckily you weren't on those episodes. It used to be a disaster. I was like, just a second, why it takes me 10 minutes to play a commercial.
I'm going to have to connect with you a little bit about this virtual assistant stuff that you've been talking a lot about. I don't
Yeah,
know. It sounds pretty awesome to me, but
it is awesome. So, my executive assistant Shine is on here with me, and like I said, runs all things. Really runs runs me, my life, which is the best. Like, just really does all things and everything for me. So we work with people with executive assistants who help them, like I said, in all types of their life. In like today, it's Hildy's 21st birthday in August, and she wants to do a trip to Nashville, and she wants me to be a part of it. I think only because she wants me to organize it. Um, so like Shine's doing that, getting all Hildy's opinions, checking out Airbnbs, get a landing page built for stuff, and then sends you emails, coordinates that, does my emails, messaging, tons of my personal life and business. And then yeah, for lots of businesses, then we also place admins,
Wow.
to help.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, I don't know how I would live without. And I don't just have Shine. I have a great team of graphic designers and accountants and all kinds of people that I get to work with. And like I said, they truly make my life magic. And Shine would laugh on here. I get to the weekend, and if like something needs done, like a couple weeks ago, we needed to make an emergency flight and fly back for a medical, or I need to fly for a medical situation. And I messaged her and I was like, where's my frequent flyer miles? Where's my like known traveler number? I don't know how to do anything myself anymore. Oh, anyway, so diving into a little bit of like your role now and the multifacets of it, because you are in such a
Mhm.
leadership position as well. But to be able to choose, I think so many of us in business as leaders, like we get to the point where like grinding and building a business, and then you also have this um, part, at least for me, and I know a lot of the people in my circle, of you get to a point of the purpose and connecting like really to what your purpose is, and that's the influence and impact of really how many people's lives can I impact, how many people can I help, and you get to I say have the honor, but also have the responsibility, as
Yeah,
your
yeah,
the weight and responsibility. It's not, it is an honor that you get to choose as your life's
yeah,
work to impact people's lives. But I just wanted to dive into that because it also is the weight and the responsibility
yeah,
of that impact as well.
yeah, yeah. It is an honor. Yeah, it is insanely humbling to think that um, I'm a little background. I'm the teaching pastor now at Relevant, but that hasn't always been my role. I was the worship pastor for a lot of years, as you know. I led worship and still do that every now and then. But my role transitioned last year. I'd kind of gotten to where I was preaching, you know, 4, 5, 6 times a year, and by God's grace, I was getting better at it, which we all want to get better at something, right? So I was getting
Yeah.
better at it, and it just became pretty clear that the best way that I could have impact on our church in a positive way was if I could step into a role that would take a little bit of the weight off of Ronnie, our lead pastor, who at that time was preaching 75% of the year. And um, so anyway, last year I transitioned. Right now we're doing a 60-40 split where I take 40% of the year and Ronnie has 60% that he preaches. But even within that 40%, I oversee the entire calendar. So the scheduling of who's preaching when and what topics we're going to be preaching on over a course of time. So I work alongside with Ronnie on that, but I oversee kind of the strategy and the systems behind it. So there's a huge weight to that. It's like the the fact that somehow, some way, I'm deciding what we're going to be talking about in a year in hopes that that's what God wants us to talk about is a really strange thing. As somebody who preaches, like as often as I do, when I stand on stage and I get to speak the words of God to people, like like it's just it is a very humbling thing that and if God chooses to use my voice to speak into people's lives, like it blows my mind. You earlier you kind of offhandedly said, "Oh, what would Matt do?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, that's not a great thing to think." Like I don't know, man, that's kind of scary. But that's just what it is. It's just insane to think that God has put me in a place where I can actually have influence on people's lives by the words that I speak on a stage. Now, I work really hard at that. Like I don't take it lightly, and so when I'm preaching a sermon, I have put, just to give some background, the sermon I preached on Sunday was determined that it was going to be preached back in January, and then I worked on the series in March, and then I started kind of dealing with each week individually after that point. And so, like, besides the week of actually putting the time in to write the words on paper, the amount of effort that goes into speaking on a Sunday morning is vast. So it's funny because I preached on Sunday, went into my office, and a lady that was new to Relevant followed me in the office. She's having a conversation. She's like, "Oh, you guys have an office? Do you like work here all week?" Like she didn't realize that it takes full-time effort to actually make this thing happen. And so it's just funny to me that that people just I would assume this lady thought that I might spend a little bit of time working on a message and walk up on stage and present it, when in all actuality it's an extreme amount of effort, not because I'm so worried about looking good on stage or being funny or enjoyable or entertaining, but because, man, I don't want to say anything up on stage that would steer somebody in the wrong direction.
Mm.
If they would take a step away from Jesus because of the words that I said, man, that would crush me. And so I just make sure I put a lot of effort into what I'm doing when I stand up there to speak.
I love so many things that you said in this that just that cross relate to so much of the audience. I'm going to go back to the impact and influence part. And like you said, the humbling. But I do really think
Yeah.
what would Matt do in the parenting situation? But like, isn't it phenomenal that, I mean, I have loved many of your sermons, many of your sermons and many recent sermons.
Yeah.
And there've been a ton where I was like, oh, that was awesome. But how, in different moments, whether it be a conversation or the things that you said from the stage in a message, that it can forever change the trajectory of someone's life, in so many ways, or impact them, or, even impact them for that day. It happened that Truth and Grace like really hit me hard and really made me evaluate like what I was doing in parenting and change it, and still does. So in that moment, the one message did completely change my life and completely change my relationship with my kids. And we have an incredible adult relationship now, but I know that both of them, I'll say that again, like both of them would thank you and say, not on the right path before. I was like, this is it. And
Yeah.
you can, fine, don't come back.
Yeah.
But that you have the opportunities for that. And we all have the opportunities for that. If we come prepared and we show kindness and grace, that we all have the opportunity to affect people's lives. The other thing, I didn't know you were in charge of the whole content calendar.
Yeah. A little bit.
And that is a stress. I can't imagine, because I think there's so many messages I always love. And I don't know why I can't remember Easter as much, but like Christmas this year, like deciding at our church, it's different. I gotta not put my hand up because it blurs my face there. At Relevant, it isn't, at the holidays, the message isn't always just like the holiday, like Christmas story, because it's a great chance to speak into people's lives. People are there that aren't normally there, right? And it's a chance to really deliver a great message. And the weight of deciding that, like, okay, we have all these people. What is what is the message going to be? And this year Christmas, I just loved like that. Like I was texting all my friends, like the whole, like my outline of the sermon and the difference between what is real and what is real and ideal. Yeah.
To be clear, so like when, just so you not due diligence, but
credit.
Just make sure I'm clear. Yeah, do credit. Thank you. Like when it comes to the bigger ones like that, man, we have a great team. Like Ronnie is he is great at leading us through deciding together as a team. So, man, the real versus ideal idea from him was, I mean, it was so great. Like I love being a part of a team where, like, I'm in charge of a lot of stuff for sure. But man, I'm just so inspired too by like the fact that, I'm challenged by Ronnie and his ability to speak. Like he's a great preacher. I'm inspired by, his ability to come up with creative ideas like that. And so it's just really cool. You mentioned having a great team um, of people along with you. I feel the exact same way. We wouldn't be as effective. We wouldn't be as impactful if it was just me or one person sitting in a room by ourselves trying to come up with all these ideas. So it's awesome.
Yeah, there is an awesome team. But the weight of that, of all of you, people don't realize how much work it takes in advance. I think so many people think, just like you said, that woman thinks
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
the night before Saturday night, I'm scribbling down some notes,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking the scripture, and I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah.
And that I think, the audience, people listening, circles that I'm in, and as I've tried to come to a space of like really wanting to impact people's lives with courage, with belief, that is the way so many people are doing it. They think they want a voice
Mm-hmm.
and a platform, and they are doing exactly. And I just want to like make this parallel for people that are listening, of they think they'll just throw some spaghetti out there, or
Yeah.
like a message. They're doing
Yeah.
exactly what that person thinks, like, oh, what should I'm just gonna make a video and just throw out some great content today and be a voice and get people to follow me. And people are tuning into that. And like you said, you have the responsibility. You don't want to step on stage, not because of the way you look or the way you sound, that you sounded polished, but because the message is real, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
want somebody to take something you said and go in the wrong direction. And I think there's a danger in that today, of a lot of people following voices that it's not that they don't have great intentions,
Yeah.
but and it just made me feel like I could be guilty of that too. But like, is it and it's not just in the time that you do it, but are people really like taking the time in the message um to be serious and to plan it out? And that
Yeah.
just, I don't know, that really stuck with me.
Well, it's not, I mean, it's not all that much different than kind of watching you work to where you're at today. Like a lot of people want what you have or they want what somebody else has and they're not willing to do the work it took to get there in the first place, right? Like
Mhm.
they think that, you know, the latest overnight success they think is literally an overnight success. They don't realize that it took, 10, 15, 20 years of trudging along, just working their butts off to get to that overnight success. And, I've been, you're doing some public speaking. Is that right? Are you doing more of
Yeah,
that?
I
Yeah.
am doing a
So,
lot of speaking.
yeah,
Fun.
the amount of work it takes to stand on a stage in front of people and
Hmm.
look like it's easy. that's what that's kind of what our goal is, right? Like I want to stand on stage and have people feel like I'm just having a conversation with them. That takes a ton of work. That doesn't just happen. Like and that's the same in any realm when you're standing in front of people or trying to build an audience or have influence. So,
Hmm. Um, but it can be, like you said, I think, the practice and looking poised and looking confident and it all looking good. That's what I was kind of about maybe like years ago and in the beginning. And then it came easy, right? I could step on a
yeah,
stage and look confident, and then I could have faked it. I could have walked on that
yeah,
stage. Somebody asked me to speak. I could have not prepared and walked on a stage and just been like, here we go.
yeah,
And everyone would think like it kind of looked good. But writing the book, and the work that took in the message and the revising, and not just throwing the book out there, but really the months and months and hours
yeah,
of editing and revising and planning what did I really want the message to be, changed my thought on the speaking as well.
yeah,
And now it does take hours for me to, whatever stage I'm on, to prep for, because like you said, I care about what they leave with. And I don't want to
hmm
say it in the wrong order or the wrong frame or a tone that, uh, somebody takes away doubt or takes away something different because
Yeah.
it wasn't delivered the way I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So that just stuck with me and resonated. And like I said, a lot of times made me more committed to that. Like if you want content out there, like if there is something in March, like the beginning of it happens months and months before, and then weeks
Yeah.
before, and not as like visionary entrepreneurs, like you said, like the 8 LLC idea, many like cool ideas as we have to like stick on the plan, not like, oh, hey, this week I have to talk about this.
Yeah. Funny story though, like kind of that all that work, all that time, all these years of doing it, and mistakes still happen, right? Like all the preparation it takes to get to a Sunday morning. And this past Sunday, as an example, we're in the middle of a marriage series. And last week happened to be a week that was about sex within marriage. It was just the time that was going to happen. It also happened to be the very first Sunday that fifth graders moving into sixth grade were in the service for the very first time. And so like, it was just, it was not the best combination. It was an unfortunate mistake, but like, I look at that and I think, man, we think we're so good at this strategy. We think we're so good at our systems. And then mistakes like that happen. And you got to field some emails from some parents that weren't super happy. And so anyway, just a funny story about, no matter how good you think you are, you're never that good. So.
That is, we need a reminder to that too. Oh, and and when you miss the strategy moments, people are always waiting to be like,
oh, they're quick. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We have somebody saying hello. We don't know because they didn't register on StreamYard. Maybe it's Caitlin. Caitlin was going to join us, but my favorite relevant family.
Oh.
Okay, time goes so quick. I can't believe, like I said, so luckily I have somebody that's like, play a commercial. You're out of time.
Yeah.
Because I could go down all these rabbit holes forever, but all these stories have been such a joy. And like I said, I will be forever grateful for, I'm sure there'll be more messages coming up that'll change it, but I love that I've been able to share this one with so many people as well. As we end the episode each week, we have talked about areas in our life of having courage. And so the call to action for viewers is, what do you need to do to get uncomfortable in some area of your life? And so we put ourselves on the hot seat first. And so, Matt, I'm going to let you answer, then I will. What is one thing you need to do to get uncomfortable?
Oh, man. I've been you gave me opportunity to think about this one, and the one thing that came to mind for me is it still has to do with my role at work, when it comes to preaching and teaching. I just mentioned that I've only been in this role for a year, and so the courageous step for me is, part of my role is to help develop other communicators. So being the one who creates systems and structures for how does a new communicator at Relevant get developed to the point where they feel like they're confident communicating in front of people. And really the courageous step part of that is I just don't feel qualified, right? Like I haven't been doing it long enough. I don't have enough biblical knowledge. It's all the same things, right? Everybody has these. I just don't have enough. I'm not good enough. And so how could I teach somebody else? And so I think the courageous step that I came up with is, I kind of just need to step out and believe that, there's opportunities that I can help people with, and believe that if somebody else is telling me I'm good enough to help other people, then I might actually be good enough. And so I should probably do it.
Yes, absolutely. This is Caitlin first. I'm going to give Caitlin credit, then it might be somebody else, but that's amazing for sure. Okay, I love that one. And you are a great communicator, and great storyteller for sure. That's one of my favorite parts about your messages. Oh, it's not Caitlin. Now we got to look and see what it is. Shine, tell us what it is. Your ability to storytell in the message. Like the messages always resonate. So you just have such great storytelling power. So
well, thank you. That's encouraging. Thank you.
Own that. So my thing to get uncomfortable, I have a couple of them, and I have always said I do not like to run because I really don't enjoy running. I just don't enjoy. I do a lot of physical activity, love doing weights and cardio and dance and all the other things, but have resisted running and have gradually added it in. And then I really get uncomfortable running with other people, like running in a 5K with groups. But now I just did another one last night with some people. So um, I'm trying to embrace those opportunities in physical challenges that I would think I would push myself. I think I was pushing my own self physically. Like think it was hard for me or working one on one with the trainer, but that wasn't really uncomfortable. What's uncomfortable for me in physical, pushing myself physically is like being held accountable with other people and like falling short. So I'm committing to putting myself in more of those situations.
Awesome.
So,
I love the physical fitness stuff as well. So I like hearing that one. That's good stuff.
all right. Well, thanks again. Whether you're listening on Turf Step Radio, joined us here live on Facebook or are listening, we are live every Wednesday. So be sure to join us next week. And thanks again, Matt. It was great to have you.
It was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Have a great week, everyone.